Okay, thrill seekers, welcome to the energy update for the spring equinox in the southern hemisphere and the autumn equinox in the northern hemisphere. Equinox will be on the 23rd of September at 4:20 a.m. Queensland time here in Australia. Equinox, basically coming from the Latin equi, equal, nox, night. It's the time of the year when the day and the night are of equal duration, and basically from this point onwards here in Australia, the days are becoming longer, heading towards the peak of that in the summer solstice. So it's a significant astrological configuration, a significant moment as the sun moves into the cardinal signs. The equinoxes, the solstices are always marked by the movement of the sun into the cardinal signs. The spring equinox being the movement into cardinal air, the sign of Libra. So it's having the quality of the air element and also all the qualities of Libra for this duration. And also we've got an eclipse coming up this week as well. So expect things to get shaken up a lot in the next week. The period that we're going through now, in my view, will only intensify. I've thrown a lot of different ideas together for this video, and so stay tuned, buckle up. It's going to be covering a lot of different ground, and we're going to be looking at a few different aspects. So the placement of Uranus in Gemini is really causing a lot of disturbance, a lot of acceleration of ideas, with things being unexpected, with revelations coming forth and all kinds of unexpected events which will only intensify. And because it's in Gemini, which is also an air sign, it's affecting people's minds in this way. It's debatable whether it's entirely positive, of course, but it is basically giving rise to also this end times madness, which we're seeing, particularly in the wake of Charlie Kirk's recent death, and some of the outpouring of content, beliefs and views on social media, etc., has shown that we are living in extremely dark times, with people actually celebrating his passing, which is quite shocking to see, to be honest. But this end times madness is to be expected. You're seeing it in the form of many people in different behaviors, unexpected weird things, which really show a deeply imbalanced mind and very deeply imbalanced actions. This will only intensify going forward. So this is something to take into consideration. But the overall effect of this Uranus in Gemini placement is to accelerate things. It makes things more unstable, because Gemini is mutable air, so it's the least dense, the least fixed element being air, and Gemini being the most dispersed. So it's kind of having this ability to shift and change suddenly, which is, at least in my view, has a lot of positive attributes, a lot of positive aspects, because it gives the ability to change, maybe to reorientate a belief system, a view, a worldview, or a way of perceiving reality, which is obviously much needed with the times we're living through, but it means that things are also turbulent at the same time. So keep that in mind as we go through this, because I will be looking backwards and forward. So firstly, I made a video in December 2019 titled, before the pandemic, that was titled 2020 and Beyond, Decade of Convergence. And that's on my YouTube channel. And you can see that basically even back then that I could perceive that the events of this decade were going to be extremely turbulent, with a lot of turmoil, but also with a lot of crises converging, a lot of different events from a lot of different aspects of our life converging: economic, political, social, environmental, and so on. And that this would perpetuate across this decade. And obviously my book title talks about this phase from 2020 to 2040. Not that 2040 is a defining time when things will finish, but this window of 2020 to 2040, as the premise of my book, is basically detailing these overviews. So these energy forecasts, I don't give like specific dates, like on this date this earthquake will occur, or certain really specific things. They're more like a general overview of different things which I feel called to speak about. And also there's a lot of things that I don't actually speak about. I don't make public some of my views of things because, well, I just choose not to. Let's leave it at that. But what I wanted to say is this decade of convergence, which is accelerating the awakening. We're in the awakening zone now, and things, in my view, are going entirely to plan, as crazy as that may seem. We need the destabilization of this paradigm in order to give birth to a new one. And that's why the tagline I gave at the start of the year for 2025 was the point of no return, as 2025 marks the stepping off or the jumping off point for this paradigm. And the cracks are appearing now that even people who are not really having any connection to the awakening can perceive that things need to change, or that we are in this unmitigated crisis with really not a lot of solutions. And that's really because a lot of these crises are being manufactured deliberately, and this is something that is it becomes obvious when you know how to see things and where to look at. And I'm sure many of you have arrived at that conclusion as well. Just one thing, for example, is that apparently the interest payments that Victoria now has is in interest payments only is $1 million an hour, which is completely staggering. And while a lot of people in the other states may just shake their head at Victoria and wonder how Melbourne became Gotham City, going from one of the most livable cities in the world. I actually lived in Melbourne from the 80s and 90s for about 10 years. And I was there last year, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking to see what's happened to Melbourne. Was such a great city, had so many wonderful qualities, and this is the ravaging of what socialist policies do. It should be a lesson to people around the world and also people around Australia. The point I'm making here is that the federal government is basically underwriting that debt of Victoria. So when becomes more and more difficult to continue the interest payments and forget even paying off the principal, really, then we're all going to be responsible for that in one way or another at a federal level. But that's where I digress. I wanted to basically start this video by saying that if you want to keep in contact with me after the introduction of the digital ID, then please go to my website. I've just launched it a couple of weeks ago, anthonyo'flynn.com. Sign up for the newsletter. There's also other socials there where you can keep in contact with me: Telegram, BitChute, and Rumble. So I have not decided yet what action I will take in regard to the digital ID. Coming back to that in a second, we're seeing this overwhelming events intensify and converge. And a lot of the rookie activists and the baby truthers are always saying, oh, it's a distraction. It's a distraction. That also is one of the things I made in one of my forecasts in very early COVID years. I don't remember the exact date. It would have been either 2020 or 2021. I forecast the rise of the rookie activist, and we are seeing the effects of that now. We're also seeing some of the division that's been caused, that some of the people who are or used to be leaders in the freedom movement, simply they are not genuine leaders, I'm afraid to say, and have made a lot of irreversible tactical errors in regard to some of their strategy, which is proving very divisive in nature. But at the same time, I actually don't have a problem with a lot of the division that's occurring, because it actually means that it's actually engaging people. It's making people think of is this person a genuine leader? What are this person's genuine intentions? What are they doing with the donations they've been receiving? Are they transparent about the donations that they've been receiving? Why are they asking for donations and subscriptions and all these sorts of things? So in a lot of ways, the division is giving rise to a new era in the truth awakening community here in Australia, which I'll get back to. And it's actually very interesting to see that unfold with a lot of promise and a lot of hope. And hopefully a lot of people coming forward who are having good intentions, who have pure hearts, and who are integrating the changes in consciousness and starting to become more self-aware as we move deeper into this paradigm shift. But the question is that people are always asking, is this everything's a distraction? Is a distraction? But they never tell you what's actually being distracted from. So I'll give you, I think it's 5 of the main things that you are being distracted from by all this ongoing loose harvest of your emotions and these world events. Because the number one thing that you need to really address for your own personal awakening and for your contribution to the global awakening that's occurring, it will occur with or without any person that you can think of. I'm not phrasing that correctly, but it's going ahead regardless of how few people are on board with it or how many people are on board with it. So all the people that think that, many of the topics that are going mainstream are just for cookers and conspiracy theorists and all that, I would basically say just forget about them. They are not coming on this journey. They're not coming on this ride. Everyone's at their own different stage of awakening, and that's totally okay. The people that still mock and laugh and are like these kind of really low consciousness people, then let them be that way. And that's one of the biggest lessons that the rookie activists are integrating, or some of them struggling to integrate at this point, is allowing people to have their own views, whether they are in a state of total cognitive dissonance, whether they are factually incorrect, whether they are extremely ignorant, or whether they don't align with your views. It's a sign of maturity just to be able to allow people to be where they are, because in the initial stages, the rookie activists are basically trying to rescue everything. And everyone goes through this stage at some point. But the real question is, that's not possible, and it's not the role of everyone in this awakening process. Sharing information, encouraging people, inspiring people, perhaps encouraging people to look at things from different angles, that's all part of the process. But trying to bully people and intimidate them and coerce them, which many so-called awake people are doing, it's not really productive. I mean, we've all been there at some point, but really it's causing a lot of suffering. And in my view, at least, it's actually what I refer to as the vortex of suffering, like this vortex that's building, that's actually giving this impetus, this catalyst for awakening. And we really saw that on the 31st of August, which was a historical moment, actually, a real turning point for the people of Australia, for the collective, to come together in huge numbers for preserving our culture, our way of life, our values here in Australia. So coming back to that, I'm kind of made a plan what I was going to say, but it's going off on tangents here. The main 5 things that you're being distracted from, that perhaps you're aware of, but you're still being distracted from, and these aren't in any particular order, except the last one is the most important. Number 1, the collapse of the US dollar. And that is signified in many of the gold bugs out there are basically getting excited about the rising of gold. It's not going up in price. It's that the fiat currency is diminishing, is going down in value. It's going down in purchasing power. And this is going to be something that will be a clear indication of that going forward. If you look at a chart of what the paper mark was worth in Weimar Republic, in just a few years, it literally went up to trillions of marks for one troy ounce of gold. So this is the number one thing, which is basically flowing into the next one, which is global currency debasement, which essentially is inflation, quantitative easing, more fiat currency being printed, which is not backed by anything. The US went off the gold standard in 71 under Nixon, and basically it's just paper. And the question people ask, why do I have to work if they can just print more money? Is a great question, but it also signifies the complete debasement of global currency around the world, and also the complete destruction of purchasing power, which basically means that there's more currency chasing the same number of goods and services, which is the expansion of the money supply, which is inflation. And the official figures in my view, don't correlate to my experience at all, that inflation at least is claimed to have been going down in Australia. So that's what you're being distracted from. The collapse by design. I mean, the people who are doing this, who are expanding the money supply, who are borrowing money, who are engaging in this debt, we have about a 1 trillion debt here in Australia, $1 trillion. They know what they're doing. It's deliberate. It's on purpose. It's not an accident. So this is the thing, the next thing people need to understand, what they're being distracted from, is the destruction of Australia by design. It's not because the government is completely incompetent. They're that as well, but they're not so incompetent that they don't understand what they're actually doing and the effects that they're deliberately creating. So the conversation needs to move from the government's doing this and this and this and to actually understanding that this is actually on purpose. It is a managed decline that's being created by the government. And only until we get to that level can we start to rectify some of these problems, which of course, everything is sort of happening. There's a synergy and there is emotion. It is happening, but it needs to be more widely discussed. Number 3, which is perhaps, in my view at least, other people would disagree, is the most clear and present danger in the immediate short term, is the introduction of digital ID here in Australia. So I will be talking about this more actually in detail. And just on that topic, I will actually be holding a workshop on the Sunshine Coast, 22nd of November, one-day workshop on navigating the shift. And we'll be incorporating a lot of the different aspects of the awakening, of your own personal evolution of your soul during this chaotic time at that workshop, including cryptocurrency. It's not a financial advice. I will not be offering any financial advice at this workshop at all, but I will be discussing the role of cryptocurrency and navigating the financial landscape and in this workshop. And I don't really speak about cryptocurrency publicly. So I've been in the space since 2017. So I've got quite a lot of experience and quite a longevity in seeing the hype, the scams, the pitfalls, and a lot of other things in this emerging asset class, which is literally just consuming dollars. If you want to think of it like that, it's like a whirlpool just consuming dollars. So enough of that. But the digital ID, which begins here, at least in regard to the internet, with the social media bill on December 10 in Australia. I haven't made my own mind up about what I will do depending on what's required for that. I already have given my credit card details to Meta, to Twitter, to X, to Google. So I don't think that's going to be enough to verify me, depending on what classifications and requirements they have. But at the same time, I'm more than happy just to withdraw from these platforms. Let the corporations and the governments battle it out. The corporations will see a massive decline in traffic. There's a lot of people who won't be signing up for this. And basically, if you're making content for these platforms, you're actually, in essence, working for them for free. And so really the question comes is, how long will we work for these major Silicon Valley corporations for free, making content, and at the same time being put in an echo chamber and having a certain level of censorship or potential censorship, depending what our views are. So there's a lot to think about there as far as, is this the quantum leap into a more freedom of speech platforms, because there'll be a vacuum? Will there be a movement to different platforms that will emerge, or other ones that already exist that won't be subject to this sort of digital ID? It's too early to say. My feeling with this is that the government is actually going to not really give us the proper information as to what will happen until it's literally, you go to log on and you have to jump through these hoops to get on it. They are putting it onto the social media platforms that that's what needs to be done. but it's unclear at this point what that is actually going to look like. The digital ID is a crucial crossing point, because from the digital ID, there is then the potential to create digital currency. Digital currency is actually already being worked on in Australia. This digital currency can have expiry date. It can be geo-fenced. It can limit what you would buy, like you only buy a certain number of products per month or per quarter, depending on the category. So all these things can be monitored, can be tracked, can be traced, and basically total control at that point. And if it's digital, then you can be debanked or have your account frozen, and you have no other course of action to pay for goods and services, because everything at that point is digital. Now, that is basically the path that the CBDC, central bank digital currencies, are heading towards. But the first major step to this is actual digital ID. So this is extremely Orwellian by nature, and of course, the powers that be will market this with the convenience that it's so convenient and it's so user-friendly and it's for your own safety and security and all these sorts of things. But this is basically leading to a social crediting system, Chinese-style social crediting system, where you can not be allowed to travel if you lose credits, or you can have all kinds of restrictions placed on you. That's actually happening now. This is not something in the future. This is not some kind of ridiculous conspiracy theory. This is basically what's happening now. And also moving on to mandatory biometric data, which is a huge leap from giving your driver's license to some form of ID, to show some form of ID. Even in Europe, starting in October, there will be requirements for biometric data and photos and answering questions to travel in parts of Western Europe. So all these changes are happening very quickly. This is basically the idea of the biochip or biomarker, or way of being tracked and traced with every purchase, your location, even your views on social media, political views, what you spend your money on in terms of entertainment, goods and services, viewing habits online, all these sorts of things. And the thing is that people might say, oh, well, they've already got all this information on you. They already know where you live. They already know your phone number and so on. Well, this is the whole questionable role of Palantir in the US. It's been given a lot of government contracts, and under the whole regime under Peter Thiel, is that now it's going to be centralized. And that's really the issue there, that this data will be centralized. Your data will be concentrated into one umbrella organization. And look, we all know where this is leading. The question is, do you want to be part of it? And really, that's something only each individual will ask. And this really leads me back to the initial point that I wanted to make, is that there's a lot of conversation always at the moment about talking about the left, talking about the right. I'll perhaps talk about the left and the right even in this video, just for context and for clarity. But this whole paradigm shift, this energy update, is basically geared around the contrast, the spiritual war that's occurring between the light and the dark, that really is the essence of this entire manifestation at this time in history, is to harvest the souls that are basically embodying the light. It doesn't matter what country you're from. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter what flag you are. The question is, are you embodying the light or not? And unfortunately, as we've seen recently, that there are many people who claim to be embodying the light who are doing a lot of vicious acts. And whether that's in a whole spectrum of society and so on, it doesn't matter what you say your cause is. Even if you're a truther or something, and you're sabotaging other people's efforts, or you're denigrating people by name, then that's not of the light. And so much of the behavior that we're seeing where it's like considered to be for someone's nation or for someone's religion or for someone's cause, well, it's completely of the dark. It's full of hatred. It's full of fear. It's full of anger. And that's the invitation that the universe is actually giving to each soul at this time. I mean, it's very complex, just to sort of summarize this point, as to the evolutionary level where we can go, where we aspire to go, where we are longing to embrace more purity, more compassion, more love, more selflessness, more acts of service, more joy. And yet some people are not really on that journey at all, although it would appear that some of their external actions would say, yeah, that's who I am. And it's like, that's not really your intent. That's not your level of consciousness. That's not your frequency. That's not your vibration. And this is something that people really need. Really, at this point, I wouldn't say it is like kind of a matter of utmost urgency, but there's not a lot of time left, because even in the awakening community, the two timelines, which I discuss in my book, of moving into the higher frequencies and just basically continuing on this 3D level and just existing on this more lower level of consciousness, which we're all still connected to, but are we able to go into these higher states in meditation in our spiritual practice? This is really a really significant question for this time. Is, are we aspiring to get there? Are we able to go there? Because no one really can have that aspiration for us. No one can have that quest for us. No one can have that longing for us. It has to come from within, and to answer that call. And that's really the stirring that we really saw it actually manifest physically in the COVID era time. But the people who went through that awakening process or demonstrated their autonomy, their independence, and their ability to sort of see through the illusion, the propaganda, the indoctrination. The evolution actually, from not all, but many of those people, occurred a long time before that. And that's what we're seeing now. So what we're seeing now are the fruits of those people who are on the journey of awakening in the COVID era. Where are they now? And this is why this timeline has split in this awakening community, in the really broad sense of it, very, very general sense of it. Started this year, and one of the effects of that was it's not for everyone, and it's nuanced. And this is the thing a lot of people are really struggling, who are new to the awakening phase. And by new, I mean in the last 5 to 10 years, is the nuances of things. That things are so nuanced. They're not black and white with everything in every way. And it's not so simple to understand things. Evolution, the evolution of the soul, can never be classified in very, very narrow terms. Some people can be very benevolent, very generous, very non-judgmental in a certain phase of their life, and or with certain people and situations, and they're not the best version of themselves at other times in other ways. And this is actually the beauty and the complexity of evolution itself. So saying that people are still asleep because they believe in the Q phenomenon, or they believe that Donald Trump's a savior or something, it's not entirely true, because they may be doing great acts of charity for their community, or they may be like a very non-judgmental person, or they may be very peaceful person. But these sorts of things are also a reflection of their own self-awareness, of their own level of consciousness. And you cannot go through this maze without the blindfolds coming off with different issues as we go through it. I mean, faith is a very beautiful thing, but at the start of the year, we actually, with this beginning of Donald Trump's second presidency. And this is actually nothing against Donald Trump per se, because it's very easy to cherry pick data to say he's doing this great things and he's doing this great things, and this is the nuances. But overall, are you still looking for an external savior? Are you starting to take control of your own life and live life on your own terms, and you look to create your own world, your own lifestyle, your own reality, based on what you are able to do with your own gifts, with your own talents, with your own resources? These are the sorts of things I'm referring to. We can look at it in the New Age community, the same level of consciousness, but a different expression of it. Are people waiting for some savior, some, ascended master or some ET? I mean, it's a very complex thing. And if so, to what degrees? Because the people in the New Age community many of them are completely engaged in a completely delusional belief system that is going to do nothing to support them through the ongoing crisis that we are now experiencing and will only intensify for the next 5 years. They haven't done the genuine inner work. It's like a complete spiritual bypass. It's like a complete lack of integration of really powerful principles of self-empowerment, of self-belief, of integrating this idea of structure, of purpose, of discipline, of strength. These qualities are very, very necessary as we go through the shift, as too is faith in a higher power. But what about a deep faith in yourself and not in this eternal savior syndrome, which, as again, can show up in different ways with different people? So, it's important to think about these things and how you relate to these ideas and how you relate to these principles and what you're striving for in your own development. And that's why, if you want to learn more about this, I'm planning on having this online course in January next year on these sorts of themes. And, the first idea of preparing for this paradigm shift and so on, people always think of the earthy things like, well, I need to, stock food, and I need to grow vegetables, and I need to get a generator and all these things. Maybe you do, but what's the most important? And that is the number one thing that people are being distracted from, is that people are being distracted from their own connection to their soul through the loosh, through the ongoing scrolling, through the ongoing monkey mind, through the ongoing engagement with the mind itself that is completely unproductive or not giving any peace or joy or serenity. And, we are at a stage now in this shift where things are going to start to take off so quickly that it will become so precious to people that, I need this stillness, I need this emptiness, I need this peace, and I need to really be able to connect with it when I choose to. That doesn't mean not being informed, that doesn't mean not being connected to what's going on, but not being obsessed. And this is something that a lot of people are struggling with, because they're still at a point where they think that the awakening is knowing about geopolitics, knowing about the latest PSYOP, the latest false flag, and all these sorts of things. And on that topic, they're going to keep on coming. As the old paradigm fails, there's going to be an increasing number of these desperation, whether it's the fake alien invasion that going all the way back to Werner von Braun spoke about, and also the genuine ET contact, and this whole thing with this comet, this UI 31, UI Atlas 31, whatever the name of it is, that's, it's acting very, very strangely. I mean, it's emitting a green light. The emissions are not like a normal comet. The construction of it is like, its composition is not like a normal comet. People are saying it's course correcting and changing direction, all these things. these sorts of events, in Panama, there's this guy or someone found a meteorite that is looked like a potato, and now it's growing tentacles or something, like it's actually changing shape. And I don't even know if it's true or not. I haven't looked into it properly, but these sorts of really, really unusual things are going to be coming at us more and more, faster and faster. And the question is being informed of what exactly? Of the latest loosh harvest, of the latest way of grabbing you emotionally, so you're continually in this seesaw, this toxic state of arguing with people on the internet and just wanting to be right. I mean, wanting to be right is basically a reflection of someone who's very egocentric. I mean, we all like to be right, don't get me wrong, but is it an obsession? Is it an inability just to go, well, maybe I don't know. Maybe I don't know. This is a psyop, this latest event. By the way, this term psyop is another thing that the New Truth is completely misused a lot, by the way. That every op or every piece of social engineering or every component of the agenda is a psyop. It's not always a psyop. That's a specific thing. Psychological operations. Remember, it first starts with the mind. So it's trying to get you engaged, hook you in. This Shenpa in Tibetan Buddhism. You know, are you getting hooked? And are your emotions just in turmoil because of it? If so, it's not a healthy place to be, regardless of whether it's the truth. So we need to think about these things at a much higher level of self-awareness. And I'm really feeling that is something that will be a really big conversation. People going offline, people just disengaging, people finding their own peace, but doing something productive with themselves, with their time, with their energy. I mean, it's such a big energy harvest, all these. Well, they are some of them psyops. And the problem with the psyops a lot of the time is the whole point is that you cannot be sure that what you believe is actually true. And that's where this phrase, the post-truth world, comes from. That things are now so garbled that even videos that come out immediately after these things are somehow edited or distorted or manufactured, and all the information flowing on from that, therefore, is actually incorrect, but it appears to be correct. And so it is designed to confuse you, but it's also designed to demoralize you, because you come to the conclusion that maybe you don't know, or you become completely fanatic because your ego is so attached to being right, to this is the truth. But people are making subjective opinions and values into objective facts, and that is completely irrational. And I've seen this a lot in the last month with everything that's going on in the truther community here in Australia, in politics, in geopolitics, in many different topics, that people literally push all facts aside and just push it to the edge of the frame, and then expand everything with emotion. And they don't even understand that their opinions, their views are completely subjective. And they're taking what is an objective fact and twisting it literally at times 180 degrees and turning it into a subjective opinion. I mean, it's lacking, it shows a lack of genuine insight and clarity of the mind to actually be in that state. It's very easy to get into. People make knee-jerk reactions. They're looking for black and white answers to things. And as I said before, things are very, very nuanced. So this is the question that everyone needs to ask themselves. Is my mind, are my emotions, are my actions, are they of the light, are they of the dark? Yeah, there's going to be something of a middle ground. Everyone is on this planet is a work in progress, which is the beauty of this time, because it's well known. The yogis say that at the end of a yuga, the acceleration is rapid. And that's what the soul journey is calling out for in this lifetime, is rapid spiritual evolution. So we are all undergoing this spiritual evolution. Every soul on this planet is here for that. The real question is, are we able to answer that call of the soul, which it requires a huge level of commitment, of self-awareness, of literally pushing aside the norms. I mean, if you're watching this, you are in the middle of it, maybe you're really advanced spiritually, maybe you've just in the last week started becoming interested in spiritual ideas. Let me tell you, after being on this journey for over 25 years, a lot of people are not going to understand anything that you talk about ever. I'm not talking about geopolitics. I'm not talking about false flags, psyops, the globalists, all these things. I'm talking about your life path. It will simply not make sense to a lot of people. And it doesn't matter who it is. It could be your family. It could be your friends you've had since primary school, since high school, since university, friends you've had for like 30, 40 years. It could be your partner. It literally can be anybody and everybody. They are not going to understand your life choices. They are not going to understand your motivations. They are not going to understand their values. And believe me, after being on this journey for 25 years, the faster that you can understand that, the easier it is going to be for you. There is no point trying to convince other people around you, save other people around you, even if your intentions are good and pure and harmonious and all that. Not everyone is going on this. And this is why this split in consciousness is deepening even in the truther community, because people are still wanting to just literally harvest the loosh, to look at these things. I mean, if it's a hobby, it's a little different, but trying to come to this idea that you are going to find out the absolute truth about these things, it's not always possible. And the sooner you can move on from that, the better. And the sooner you can realize that what is most important are the values that drive you, is the consciousness that is driving you, and that it's the quality of consciousness that you bring to your actions, to how you're interacting with the world, that is the defining thing of, are you of the light or of the dark? Now, every soul will make this choice, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that are trying to duck and weave, people who think getting involved and everything is going to become more political in this decade. It doesn't matter who you are. You think you're too spiritual or too evolved, or you're too rich, or you're too morally superior, or you're too pretentious. It doesn't matter. Those people are going to be the ones that actually will be the ones carrying the signs, walking through the streets in protest march. I only advocate legal, lawful actions, by the way, to make it clear, because evolution is coming to you. It's coming to you. And that's why by embracing the spiritual path, you're actually helping smooth the waters out as we go through this. So you're helping to make things easier for yourself. You're not being too attached to the outcome. You're not being too attached to material things. You're not too attached to being right. But what you're focused on is actually genuinely navigating this shift with as much ease and as grace as you can. And that is going to take some people years to understand, and other people who are hearing this, they're already doing it, perhaps not even becoming aware of it. So, oh my God, I've been going for too long. I haven't even spoken on literally half the things that I was supposed to speak about. Really, there's so many issues there that I really, really have not even touched on. But we got to stick together. I mean, this thing of the unity is really important. And I actually, it's the one thing that the powers that be really fear. And I mean, if you saw the footage of the 3 million people in England on the weekend in London, I mean, I was either drone footage or helicopter footage from the sky. That is probably the largest crowd I've ever seen in my life. In any capacity. So So this is the real thing, is that you won't be able to unify everyone. We've seen recent events in Australia show the fringes of the left and the right. Sadly, they're not probably going to be really uniting with mainstream Australia, with mainstream values, with who we are as a nation, who we want to be. That's for everybody living here. Everybody living here, who calls Australia home. But we still have to try to find the common ground. And this is where the division is so powerful, because it's always turning us away from the creators of the division. And in this case, it's many of the governments around the world and so on who are really, and globalist organizations who are really effectively creating division. And when we lose sight of this, it's so easy to manipulate, and we actually drop into a lower state of hate or fear, and it doesn't help serve us collectively to support this paradigm shift, because we are really on this journey of awakening the planet. And although the turmoil and the violence is terrible, and it really is hard to understand why it has to be this way, but we are, heading towards something that is much more superior in the long term, medium to long term. But, this is inverted reality, where even the manipulation of, or inversion of love, is something that we see based on this wokeism and these socialist communist values, where they even try to invert what love is, and make out that we should just accept everything and everything's okay and we should just go along with everything and so on. Well, the day of reckoning is coming. And in fact, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that the only way things are going to turn around, at least in part, will be an act of God that will occur in the next 5 years. And just to conclude this video, I really haven't touched on most of the topics I wanted to, but there will be an event that will occur between now and the end of the calendar year next year that's going to have global ramifications. It's not the event, it's not the end, it's not the beginning, but it's going to be something that is basically going to shake things up, that will affect the entire planet. Whether it is the collapse of the US dollar, the end of the precious metals manipulation, the dramatic rise of BTC, of cryptocurrency, this is not financial advice, of pole shifting, of huge natural disasters, or some kind of spiritual awakening that goes much, much deeper than the themes I've discussed today. It could be a combination of those things. It could be something, first contact, open contact. It will be something that kind of like, imagine a door that's sort of open with a little bit of light coming through. The door opens quite a lot more with more light coming through. It's not completely open, but it's significant. It is undeniable, and it's giving the impetus for more light. There is more light coming to the planet, but it depends on how you're integrating the subtle reality. And that's really coming back to what I said before about what quality of consciousness are you bringing to this conversation, to this thing. I mean, we are only human, we are fallible, we make mistakes, we're a work in progress. We need to be very patient and compassionate with ourselves. But at the same time, there are elements or groups or soul groups that we are moving away from. So I would say that the division is something that is inevitable in certain ways, in certain themes and certain topics, but I would like to see it more as a separation, that people look at it more as a separation, that I'm separating myself from the lower levels of things. I'm still participating in the world, although a lot of people are also wanting to run away from the world these days. I get that. I'm doing that myself to a degree, actually, more and more. But to show up for humanity at this time, it really is the mark of a soul it's ready for this awakening, at least in some way. And I, that is something that takes a lot of courage, and we need more of that. We need more of that in Australia. We need more of this sustained courage, and it's really inspiring to start to see people really embodying that. It really is, and you're helping to light another candle when you do that, to help support the awakening of another soul. So it's exciting time to be here, and if we can maintain that attitude, it'll be much easier. But there also will be ongoing turmoil, and it's just inevitable. But I guess the lesson we need to learn through that, if we experience that individually, is what am I learning from this? What is this experience teaching me? How am I growing? Because if I am using that as a springboard, as a vehicle for my evolution, I'm doing it more consciously, often you'll find you'll work through these problems faster. You'll have a different relationship to these problems. You'll look at more how you grow at a soul level through this challenge, through this adversity. And we have a tendency not to grow when things are too easy. It's only through adversity we see. And it's like when you hit that limitation in what you think you can experience or contribute or endure, when you go beyond that, that's when where the real gold is. That's when the real internal shift occurs. So that's not necessary in all aspects of our life. It may be just one thing. It can be, your health, your intimate relationship, your career, your finances, your life purpose. It can be a combination of these things. It can just be like having the courage to speak your mind, to find your voice, to start to show the world who you really are. I mean, it takes courage to do that. To not worry about what people will think of you and will ridicule and so on. I mean, look at half the people on social media. They hide behind like cat face for their profile, or they lock their profile so no one can see that, and yet they're the bravest keyboard warriors you've ever seen. If only there was some evolutionary merit for being a spineless, cowardly keyboard warrior. But unfortunately it isn't, because the only states that many of those people generate are fear, envy, hate, and so on. And they're exactly the states we want to move away from. Look, I've said way too much. This was supposed to be a much shorter video. I really haven't covered a lot of topics in the forecast that I wanted to cover, but it's game on. And this is what we came for. Check out my website, anthonyo'flynn.com, sign up for the newsletter, and if I don't see you after this digital ID comes in, you can find me there. Thanks for watching.